our muscles just become less pliable. We become more dehydrated. So when I think about what's the perfect exercise routine for longevity, we strive for perfection. We're never going to get there, but this is what I would strive for. 2 days a week doing some form of strength training, 2 days a week doing some form of cardiovascular training. So even just walking quickly or running or bicycling or rowing machine, something that's focused on cardiovascular activity for 30, 40 minutes. Then at least 1 day a week, probably two, that you're focused on flexibility and mobility. So that may be something like yoga. It could be different forms of balancing. In order for your muscles to function properly and your joints, they have to be able to go through a full range of motion. So doing stuff like yoga is going to make you much stronger. People, I think, overlook that when they think about strength training. It's going to make you much stronger when you're lengthening the size of your muscles. And so flexibility has to be part of the routine. If it's not, you end up putting yourself at much higher risk of injury. And I say that because I did that to myself, where I exercised almost too much, got injured a bunch of times, didn't realize it was because I was not doing any mobility or flexibility training. And so now I try to do yoga once or twice a week. I just have a yoga mat. I just get down on the floor. I do it for 15, 20 minutes. And I've been doing it long enough that I can feel it out. But it's great that there are guided videos that people can go through that are on YouTube or just online. There's a bunch of different resources that are free for people. So all that to say, I do think the flexibility and the mobility need to be part of the routine. The other pillar that I would add, so we talked about strength training, we talked about endurance training or cardiovascular training, talked about flexibility and mobility. The last piece is stability, which I mentioned when I talked about balancing. But when we exercise and do forms of strength training or even flexibility work where we're stretching, a lot of times we're only targeting the biggest muscles. So you may get down on the floor and just stretch your hamstrings or your quads or your piriformis muscles or your glutes, but we're not often accessing the really small stabilizer muscles that are super important for things like walking up and down stairs or preventing yourself from falling over when you step on an uneven surface like a curb or a rock when you're walking. And so adding in 1, maybe 2 days of some form of stability training can be really helpful. That may be as simple as even a plank is an example of stability training. And if you did that on an uneven surface, that would add more stability to it. So I think having some form of stability training that you're incorporating in your week, whether it's 1 day or 2 day, it just ends up helping you exercise all those tiny muscles that protect the bigger muscles and your joints.
Right. So one follow-up question is, so as somebody gets older, should they concentrate on, say, specific exercises or specific type of movements, or they should mix it up and do a lot of variety?
I think as you get older, it becomes more important to focus on strength training and stability and flexibility. Because when you do strength training for a lot of folks, cardiovascular training, things like going for a run, that becomes less feasible as we get older, just because we don't want all of the impact on our joints. So doing some form of strength training to protect our muscle mass, even if it's farmer's carries, where you're just holding 2 dumbbells or kettlebells in your hands and you're just walking for a minute or two, and you're doing that 5 to 10 times, that's still going to signal to your body that it needs to protect your muscle tissue. The reason I would rank stability and mobility or flexibility and stability over cardiovascular training is because you end up getting a lot of cardiovascular exercise when you do the strength training or when you do the stability training, and protecting those small stabilizer muscles becomes increasingly important as we get older.